I'm 42 years old, and until last month I thought I had a solid marriage. My husband, Eric, is 45, and we've been together for 8 years, married for 5. I also have a 19-year-old stepdaughter, Ava, from his previous marriage. Our relationship hasn't always been smooth, but I tried. I really did. Eric and I live in a quiet suburb, nothing fancy, just a cozy 3-bedroom house with a little garden I've spent years perfecting. Ava moved in full-time when she was 16, after a falling out with her mom. I was actually the one who encouraged it. I thought maybe living together could help us bond. Spoiler, it didn't. Ava was cold from day one, not hostile, just distant. She was polite when Eric was around, but behind closed doors, it was like I didn't exist. I tried to make her feel at home, took her shopping, helped her decorate her room, supported her through senior year. But no matter what I did, she made it clear I wasn't part of her real family. Eric always said I was imagining things, that Ava was just a moody teenager, that she'd come around eventually. Then last month something happened that I still can't fully process. Ava sat us down one evening and said she had something to tell us. She looked nervous, almost teary-eyed, and that's when she dropped the bomb. She said she was pregnant. I was stunned. Eric looked even more shocked than me. He asked her all the expected questions. How far along was she? Who was the father? Had she seen a doctor yet? Ava just cried harder and said it was complicated. She said the guy didn't want to be involved, and she didn't feel safe at her. She wanted to stay here, but not with me around. That's when she looked me straight in the eye and said she didn't feel comfortable in the house during her pregnancy. I just sat there in disbelief. I turned to Eric expecting him to laugh or shut it down, but instead he took a deep breath and said, maybe it was best if I gave Ava space for a while. Like I was some stranger who didn't belong in my own home. I thought he was joking, but no, he was dead serious. He asked if I could stay with my sister just for a few weeks, until things calmed down. Said Ava was going through a lot and needed to feel safe. I was so blindsided I couldn't even find the words. All I could do was nod, and that night I packed a bag and left. The first night at my sister's house, I barely slept. I kept replaying Ava's face in my mind, the way she avoided eye contact, how her hands were shaking just a little too much, how her story kept shifting every time Eric asked a question. She was emotional, sure, but something didn't sit right with me. It felt off. My sister Liv has always had a good radar for. She never liked Ava, but she kept her opinions to herself. The second I finished telling her what happened, Liv raised an eyebrow and asked me, flat out, if I really believed Ava was pregnant. I didn't know how to answer. She pointed out all the inconsistencies. No mention of a doctor's visit, no ultrasound photo, not even a due date. And Ava suddenly deciding she couldn't be in the same house as me? That was weird. I hadn't done anything to her. There'd been no fight, no drama. Just this abrupt shift, like she'd been waiting for a reason to push me out. Over the next few days, things got even stranger. Eric barely called. When he did, he sounded distracted, guilty even. He kept saying things like, we just need to get through this, and it's only temporary, but he refused to answer basic questions. Had Ava seen a doctor yet? Did they need help setting up appointments? Was she eating okay? He'd always been so hands-on with her in the past, but now he was cagey. Then Liv showed me something that made my stomach drop. She had a second Instagram, one she used to keep tabs on her teenage kids, and guess who popped up in her suggested follows? Ava. I hadn't thought to check social media. Honestly, I was too hurt to even think straight. But when Liv pulled up Ava's account, I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. There were photos, new ones, of Ava out with her friends, at parties, drinking, wearing crop tops, taking mirror selfies. Not a hint of a baby bump. No captions mentioning anything close to pregnancy. No tired eyes. No sickness. No sign of stress. She looked carefree. And then we saw it. A story from the night before. She was at a concert. Jumping, dancing, screaming, holding a drink. The same night I was lying awake in a guest room, wondering how to be more supportive of her condition. My blood ran cold. It was a lie. All of it. And Eric? He'd either been fooled, or he was in on it. I stared at the screen, watching Ava dance under strobe lights with a drink in her hand, grinning ear to ear like the world was hers. No pregnancy glow, no fatigue, no caution. Just a teenager who knew exactly what she was doing. Liv didn't say anything. She didn't have to. I felt the rage settle in my chest like cement. Not just at Ava for faking it, but at Eric, for believing her, for choosing her lie over me, for exiling me from my own house. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, though. I still needed proof, something undeniable. So, I texted Eric, told him I was thinking of coming by to drop off some things. His response came almost instantly. Not a good time. Ava's having a rough night. Really? A rough night right after she was living it up at a concert? I didn't reply. I just waited. And 2 hours later, when I saw Ava post a new picture, this time from our backyard, posing with our dog, I knew what I had to do. I was going home. Liv offered to drive, and I didn't argue. My hands were shaking too much anyway. The whole ride there, I ran scenarios through my head. What if Ava doubled down? What if Eric lied to my face? What if they tried to gaslight me again? But none of it prepared me for what I actually walked into. We pulled into the driveway, and I noticed right away. Ava's car wasn't there. I rang the doorbell. No answer. So I used my key. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Eric was in the kitchen, sitting at the counter with his head in his hands. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. When he saw me, he didn't even flinch. He just said, "She's not pregnant," just like that. Like it was no big deal. I didn't say a word. I let the silence hang. Eric stood up, pacing. I found a receipt in the trash for a bottle of wine. I asked her about it, and she said she only had a sip. But I pressed, and she cracked, said it was all fake, that she made it up. Still, I stayed silent. She said she just needed space, that she didn't want you here anymore, that you were too controlling. That's when I snapped. I reminded him. Controlling? I was the one who made room for her, who gave up my weekends, my plans, my peace. I was the one who got pushed out. And then I asked him the one question that had been eating at me for days. Did you know? He didn't answer. He just looked away. I knew then. The way Eric wouldn't meet my eyes. The way his jaw clenched like he was holding back more than guilt. He knew. Maybe not at first. Maybe not all the way through. But at some point, he figured it out. And instead of telling me, instead of defending me, he let it play out. I asked again, "When did you find out she was lying?" This time, he whispered it, 3 days ago. 3 days. He knew for 3 days. And didn't call me, didn't tell me, didn't ask me to come home. I asked him why he didn't defend me, why he let his daughter manipulate the situation to kick me out of my own home, why he chose to sit in silence, pretending it was all okay, and his answer was somehow worse than anything I imagined. I just didn't want to push her away again. That was it. Not because he believed her, not because he thought I was wrong, but because he was afraid of losing her. I could feel my heart cracking open, right there in the kitchen. After everything I'd done, for her, for him, he still chose silence over loyalty. He went on about how Ava's mom had alienated her, how he missed out on so much of her childhood, how she finally opened up to him this year, and he didn't want to ruin that progress. So instead, he sacrificed me. He said he hoped things would calm down, and maybe Ava would come clean on her own. He didn't expect me to find out so soon. He didn't expect me to have the spine to come back, and suddenly, it all made sense. Eric never stood up to Ava. Not when she gave me the cold shoulder for years. Not when she started making subtle digs about me in front of him. Not even when she demanded I leave. He never pushed back. Because deep down, he was always afraid of being the bad guy in her eyes. Even if that meant watching me walk out the door with tears in mine. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there, letting the weight of what Eric said sink in. He let me leave. He knew Ava was lying. And he said nothing. Not out of confusion. Not because he needed time. But because he was scared of losing her. So instead, he sacrificed the person who'd been right beside him for 8 years. The person who had every reason to expect loyalty. Me. I told him I was going to pack the rest of my things. That I wouldn't be back. And that's when he said something that chilled me. He asked if I'd be willing to talk things through. As a family. A family? What family? The man who let his daughter fake a pregnancy to kick me out wasn't family. The girl who pretended to be traumatized just to get rid of me wasn't family. I didn't even recognize these people anymore. I walked past him and went straight to our bedroom. My bedroom. Everything looked the same, but it felt like I was walking into a stranger's house. Then something strange caught my eye. On the desk near the window was a notebook I didn't recognize. It had Ava's name scribbled across the front. I probably shouldn't have looked inside, but I did, and I wish I hadn't, because page after page was filled with entries that weren't just dramatic teenage angst. They were detailed notes, thoughts, ideas, plans. Ava had been journaling for months. About me, about how I took her dad away, how she was done pretending to be nice, how she wanted the house back. She wrote about my routines, how I hovered in the kitchen, how I always tried too hard. She even wrote about manipulating Eric, testing him, seeing how far she could push before he'd say no. Apparently, he never did. And then I turned to a page that made my stomach drop. It was dated 2 weeks before she made her announcement. She wrote, "He won't stop me. I know it. I could tell him I'm pregnant tomorrow and he'd fold. She'll be gone by the weekend." And she was right. I stared at that page, my hands trembling. It wasn't just a lie. It was premeditated. Ava didn't just blurt something out in a moment of panic. She planned it. She orchestrated it. Every move had been calculated. Every word she cried out that night. Every time she trembled or looked afraid. It was all part of the performance. But the part that cut the deepest wasn't what Ava wrote. It was how confident she was that Eric wouldn't stop her. "He won't stop me." 4 simple words that told me everything I needed to know about where I stood in this marriage. I put the notebook down and sat on the edge of the bed, surrounded by pieces of the life I had built here. The throw blanket I'd knitted for our anniversary, still neatly folded on the chair. The framed picture of us on our honeymoon in Oregon, smiling in front of a waterfall. All of it suddenly felt like props from a life that wasn't mine anymore. Eric didn't come check on me. He didn't ask what I was doing. He probably assumed I was just packing. He had no idea what I had found. And the worst part? I wasn't even surprised. I packed slowly, carefully. Not just my clothes, but the little pieces of myself I had left here. Jewelry boxes, family photos, cookbooks. That ceramic owl mug I loved. I didn't want to leave anything behind. Not even a trace of myself for Ava to laugh at later. As I was zipping up my suitcase, I heard the front door open. Voices. Ava had come home. I didn't move. I didn't go out there. I just stood still, listening. I couldn't hear what they were saying. Just murmurs, laughter, the casual clinking of glasses. Like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't been banished just days before. Like this was all normal. That's when I knew. They both deserved each other. He'd made his choice, and she'd won. At least, for now. Because I wasn't walking away empty-handed. I took a photo of that journal page. Actually, I took several. Not to post online. Not to humiliate her. But to remind myself that this wasn't in my head. That I didn't overreact. That I wasn't crazy or dramatic or controlling. I was betrayed. And now I had proof. I left without saying goodbye. I didn't slam the door. I didn't make a scene. I walked out quietly, like someone leaving a house after locking up for the last time. Not because they forgot something, but because they knew they were never coming back. Liv was waiting in the car. She didn't ask questions, just looked at me and nodded. She knew. I didn't have to explain the look on my face. We drove in silence for a while before I finally said it. She wrote it all down. Liv pulled over right then and there. I showed her the pictures on my phone, every single page I'd captured. Her expression hardened with each scroll. She didn't even try to soften the blow. She just said what I was already thinking. That girl's dangerous. And maybe she is. But she's also clever, manipulative, strategic. That journal wasn't just a teenage rant. It was a blueprint. Ava knew exactly how to control her father. She'd studied him. She tested him. And she succeeded because Eric let her. But I'm not going to be the villain in this story. Not in their version, and not in mine. The next morning, Eric called. I didn't answer. He texted. Just a simple, "Can we talk?" I didn't respond. That afternoon, I got another text. This time from Ava. It was short and smug. "I guess you made your choice." Like she had won something. Like this was a game. That was the moment I realized she wasn't afraid of consequences. She wasn't afraid of being found out. She wanted me to know. She wanted to twist the knife just a little deeper. But here's what she didn't expect. I wasn't going to fight her. I wasn't going to beg Eric to see the truth. I was going to let them think they'd won, because sometimes the best revenge is silence. Let them celebrate. Let them enjoy their victory lap in that house I once made a home. Because while they're busy basking in their little power trip, I'm planning my next move, and I'm not done yet. For the next week, I said nothing. I didn't answer Eric's calls. I didn't reply to Ava's messages. Yes, she kept sending them. Little taunts, snide comments. She even posted a photo online of her and Eric having dinner at my favorite restaurant, with a caption, "No more tension at the table." It didn't even sting. It just confirmed what I already knew. Ava didn't want peace. She wanted attention, and maybe, deep down, she wanted me to snap, to explode, to go public with everything she'd done so she could play the victim again. But I didn't give her that. I focused on myself instead. I moved into a small rental apartment Liv helped me find. I started replanting the garden I had to leave behind, one pot at a time on my tiny balcony. I went back to my job full-time. I even started going to therapy, something I should have done years ago. Still, part of me waited for the other shoe to... About 2 weeks after I moved out, I got a message from Eric's sister, Melissa. We'd always been close. She never had kids, and in many ways I had filled that role in her life. We used to bake together, talk on the phone for hours. But after Ava moved in, Melissa had gone quiet. I figured she was just trying to stay neutral. Her message was simple. "Can we meet?" I think I made a mistake. We met at a cafe the next day. She looked tired, nervous, like someone who'd just realized they'd put their trust in the wrong person. She got right to it. Apparently, Ava had told her a version of the story too, that I was jealous, overbearing, hostile, that I made the house feel like a prison, that she had no choice but to lie about the pregnancy to protect her mental health. But the act didn't last long. Ava had slipped up during a family dinner at Melissa's house. She joked about how easy it was to get rid of the witch, laughed about how Eric had folded like laundry. Melissa said everyone was laughing along, except her, and later that night Ava had left her journal in the guest room by accident. Melissa found it, not the whole thing, but enough. She read some of the same pages I had, and just like me, she realized Ava wasn't some scared, misunderstood girl. She was manipulative, calculated, and proud of it. Melissa looked me in the eye and said, I believed her because I wanted to, but I see it now, and I'm so sorry. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just nodded, because now I wasn't alone anymore. After meeting with Melissa, things started to move quickly. She asked if she could have copies of the photos I'd taken of Ava's journal. I hesitated at first. I didn't want to create more drama, but Melissa assured me she wasn't trying to stir the pot. She just wanted the truth, for herself, for the rest of the family, so I sent them. Less than 24 hours later, I got a message from Eric. Not a phone call, not a knock at my door, just a weak, 2-sentence text. I didn't know how far she took it. I'm sorry, can we please talk? I didn't reply. A day after that, Melissa told me she'd confronted Eric. She brought the journal pages with her and laid them out on his kitchen counter while Ava was in the shower. Said she looked him in the face and asked him if he still wanted to stand by his daughter's side. According to Melissa, Eric broke down. Apparently, he admitted he had a gut feeling all along, that Ava's story never really added up, that he was afraid of pushing her away again, of being the bad dad who didn't believe his daughter. Melissa didn't hold back. She told him what everyone else had been too afraid to say. He didn't protect his wife. He failed the one person who never gave him a reason to doubt her, and then something wild happened. Ava came downstairs mid-conversation, still wrapped in a towel, hearing just enough of the exchange to catch her name. She didn't even deny it. She just smirked. Then, according to Melissa, she said, "Well, it worked." That was the moment the glass finally. Eric told her to pack a bag. Melissa didn't get into the deal, but apparently Ava stormed upstairs, slammed doors, and screamed that she hated them. She accused Melissa of trying to said I was probably. She left. I haven't confirmed where. Maybe back to her friends. Maybe she's still spinning new stories somewhere. But I know one thing. She's out of the house. And suddenly, the silence I'd been drowning felt different. Not lonely, but peaceful. 2 days after Ava moved out, Eric showed up at my apartment. No warning, no text. Just knocked on my door like nothing had happened. I didn't answer. He stood there for a while. I watched him through the peephole, arms crossed, shifting from foot to foot, like he couldn't decide if he was sorry or just embarrassed. Eventually, he slid an envelope under the door and walked away. I didn't open it for hours. When I finally did, it wasn't a letter. It was a printout. A copy of the journal pages I had photographed. The ones Ava wrote. Eric had highlighted one in particular. "He won't stop me. I know it. I could tell him I'm pregnant tomorrow and he'd fold. She'll be gone by the weekend." Underneath, he had scribbled a note in pen. "You were right. I was weak. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed to say it. That was it. No grand speech. No declaration of love. No begging. And that was the first smart thing he'd done in months. I didn't cry. I didn't feel vindicated or smug. I just felt done. Eric lost more than his marriage. He lost the one person who would have stood by him no matter what. And Ava? She got exactly what she wanted, until she didn't. Because people like her, who think manipulation is a form of power, eventually end up alone. When the lies run out, so do the followers. And me? I've started over. My apartment is small, but it's mine. The balcony garden is blooming. I took a solo trip to Colorado last weekend, hiked for hours, just me and the sky and the wind, and no one to walk on eggshells around. I finally breathe again. Some nights, I still lie awake and wonder how it got this far, how someone who once claimed to love me could stand by and let his daughter destroy our life together. But most nights, I sleep just fine. Because I left. Because I walked away when I had every reason to stay and fight for someone who wouldn't fight for me. Because I finally realized that the biggest betrayal wasn't Ava's lie, it was Eric's silence. And I'll never accept silence again, not from anyone.